This session will be on the 4 rules of number. The learning objectives for this session are understand what the 4 rules are and identify associated vocabulary, and then be able to complete the 4 operations without a calculator. So what are the 4 operations or rules in maths? Well, they are just the 4 things that you do all the time. They are add, subtract, multiply, and divide. It would be very difficult to come up with something you do in maths that doesn't use one or all of those operations. Now, in your exam, you don't just get a list of sums to do. You get asked written questions, and that's why knowing the vocabulary of the 4 rules is very important. So, for example, if they wanted you to do an addition, they might say add or more, groups of, plus, increase, total, sum, or altogether. For subtraction, they might say subtract, minus, less, decrease, take away, fewer, leave, or difference. For multiplication, they might say multiply, times, groups of, lots of, repeated addition, product, multiplied by, or array. Division can be said by saying divided by, share, divisible by, share equally, divide, group, or divide into. And then finally, equals, you could say makes, it's the same as, equivalent, balances, or total. Now that is our first learning objective. We now know what the 4 rules are, and we understand some of the vocabulary. Now, these lists are by no means extensive. There are many other words that could be used for each of these operations. These are just the most common. So, part of your exam, whether you're doing functional or GCSE, is a non-calculator exam. So you need to be able to do those 4 rules without a calculator. Now, for addition, we call it column addition, and this is the most commonly used way to add without a calculator. So, for example, if I was doing 465 plus 247, the first thing I need to do is write the numbers one underneath the other, making sure that the numbers with the same place values are aligned. So it could be useful for you to write out your hundreds column, tens, units as so to help you line them up. Now, when we are doing adding, it doesn't matter which way around we put the numbers, if we put the first one on the top or the bottom, but when we come to subtraction, it will become important. Second step, or first step after you've written it out, is you start with the units column and you're going to add those 2 numbers together. So in the units column for this sum, we have 5 add 7. If I do 5 add 7, we get 12. Because that's a 2-digit number, we're going to put a 2 in the units column, but we're going to carry that 1 or that 10 into the tens column, like so. Then we're going to add up our tens column, but we need to remember that 1 that we carried over from the units. So we've got 6 add 4 add 1. That gives us 11, which again is a 2-digit number. So we're going to put 1 in our tens column and carry the other 1 up to our hundreds. Finally, we're going to add up the hundreds column. So we've got 4 add 2 add 1. That gives us 7. That's only a 1-digit number, so we don't need to do any carrying. Okay, so here's some practice for you to do. If you are feeling really confident with this, have a go at the green ones. If you are feeling okay, have a go at amber. If you feel like you need lots of practice, have a go at red. I would encourage you to do at least 1 full column, but then once you finish 1 column, challenge yourself with the next column over. You could pause the video here to have a go. Okay, now you've had a go at those, here are the answers. So mark your sums, see if you can work out why you went wrong on any that you did go wrong on. Okay, column subtraction. works in much the same way as the column addition does, apart from obviously we're going to be taking away instead of adding on. So we're going to write the two numbers out just as we did before, making sure that our columns line up. Like I said, when you're doing added, it doesn't really matter which one you write on top and which one you write on the bottom. However, for subtraction, you want to always make sure that the first number in the sum is your top number and the second one is your bottom number. Again, we're going to start with the units and we're going to subtract the bottom one from the top one. So on this one, we're going to end up doing 5 take away 7. That gives us -2. While -2 is an acceptable answer to a subtraction, that becomes really hard to put into our sum. So instead, we're going to borrow one from the tens units to make that 5 bigger. So we're going to borrow a 10 from the tens column, which makes that one 5. And then we put that onto our units. Now, I already had 5. I've added 10 on, so that sum now becomes 15 take away 7, which gives us 8. So we can put that in the units column. Then we move through to the tens column, and we're going to do 5 take away 4, gives us 1. And then we're going to move to the hundreds column, which is 4 take away 2, gives us 2. So the answer to that sum is 218. Once again, have a go at some questions, challenge yourself, see if you could do a higher column than you thought. Pause while you answer the questions. Okay, so now you've had a go, let's do some marking. Okay, so dividing without a calculator. We use a method called bus stop division. So this is what our bus stop looks like. The first number goes inside the bus stop, so that's what we are dividing. And then the second number, what we are dividing by, goes on the outside. Again, we're going to take it a column at a time. So the first number under the bus stop is a 4. We need to consider how many times can I fit 6 into 4. Now, 4 is smaller than 6, so that's going to be none. So I take that 4 and I carry it over to the second number. And then we have to decide how many times is 6 going to 46. It's going to 46 7 times. But 6 sevens aren't 46 exactly, they're 42. So I've still got 4 left over. So I put that 4 onto that 5. 6 into 45, again, is going to be 7. But 6 sevens are 42, so I've got 3 left over. Now, if you are doing entry 1, entry 2, entry 3, that would be a perfectly acceptable answer. You could leave your answer as 77, remainder 3. However, if you are doing level 1, level 2, or GCSE, you need to make that into a decimal. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If I write 465.0, it means the exact same thing as 465. It's like if I write £10 as 10.00, it's still the exact same thing as if I just wrote 10. It doesn't change the value of the number. But what it does do is give me another number to carry digits onto. So I can carry that 3 onto that 0. Now, because I've put a decimal place on the bottom, I need to put a decimal place on the top to keep that place value correct. And then I can do 6s into 30, which goes 5. And I've got no remainders, so the answer is 77.5. Again, pause when you're ready and have a go. The red and amber questions, I'd like to leave with remainders. For the green questions, I'd like to work out it to decimal places. And there's your answers so that you can mark your work. Now, multiplication. There are many different ways that you can multiply without a calculator. The most common, there are three that are the most common, and I'm going to show you each of those three methods. Now, we don't mind which method you use as long as it works for you, you understand it, and you get to the right answer. That's the most important part. So the first method I'm going to show you is column multiplication. Now, we set it out exactly the same as we have done for addition and subtraction. And then we're going to start by multiplying the units on the bottom number by all the digits on the top number. So I'd do 5 times 5 gives me 25. So I put my 5 and carry my 2 into the tens column. 5 times 2 gives me 10. Add that 2 I carried, gives me 12. So I put my 2 in that column and I'll carry my 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Add the 1 I carried, gives me 6. Okay, but that is not our final answer because we still need to multiply all the top numbers by that 1 in the tens column on the bottom. So, but because it's a 10 and not a 1, we put a 0 in the units column so that our place value stays correct. Then we do 1 times 5 gives me 5. 1 times 2 gives me 2. 1 times 1 gives me 1. Now we need to add those two answer rows together and that will give us our final answer. The second method is grid multiplication. So we draw our grid out like that and separate our numbers into hundreds, tens, and units. So 125 becomes 120 and 5, and 15 becomes 10 and 5. Then we multiply the numbers above and to the left of each blank box. So the first one would be 100 times 10, which gives us 1,000. Then we have 20 times 10, which gives us 200. 5 times 10, which gives us 50. Then we move on to the bottom row. We have 100 times 5, gives us 500. 20 times 5 gives us 100. And 5 times 5 gives us 25. The next step is to add up all of those numbers. So back to column addition, add those up. We get 1,875 again. The last method is lattice multiplication. It looks similar to grid method, but you don't end up with as many zeros and adding to do at the end. So you draw a grid very similar to your grid multiplication, except instead of your numbers going down the left-hand side, they're going to come down the right-hand side. And you're also going to draw diagonal lines through the corners of your blank boxes. Again, we're going to multiply what's above and to the right of each blank box. The tens value of your answer goes in the top triangle created, and the units answer goes in the bottom triangle. So for example, 1 times 1 gives us 1, so that's no tens, but 1 unit. 2 times 1 gives us 2, which is no tens, 2 units. 5 times 1 gives us 5, which is no tens, 5 units. 1 times 5 gives us 5, no tens, 5 units. 2 times 5 gives us 10, so 110, no units. And 5 times 5 gives us 25, which is 2 tens and 5 units. Now we've finished with the multiplying, we need to go down each diagonal and add them up. So you start at the bottom. So in this bottom one over here, this one here, you've only got 5. In this diagonal here, you've got 5, add 2, add 0, which gives you 7. Then you've got 5, add 1, add 2, add 0, gives you 8. Then you've got 0, add 1, add 0, which gives you 1. And then you've got 0. And then you would read your answer round. So you've got 1,875. Okay, so last set of practice. Pause when you're ready. And there's your answers to the multiplication questions. So that's the 4 rules of number. If you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to put a comment below and we will get back to you as soon as possible.